This is Athena Jezik, and we're going to do a little bit of abdominal work, especially since Karina has been doing so many of the core strengtheners. Her stomach is actually got a little more tightness to the muscle, so that's a good thing. She might think it's bloated, but it's really the muscle getting bigger. So I guess we'll do a little demonstration where I'll talk my way through this. So if you're working on somebody's stomach, now this, when you get to the abdomen, there's just organs in this whole area. There's quite a bit of structure in here, and it's something that you don't want to go deep and push and forceful at all. The organs fit together with one another quite tightly, and when we move, the organs have to move and shift around. It's something that I had never thought about until I started to really look at anatomy and movement, and realizing just how much these organs have to push into each other and twist and turn when we're in motion, especially bending and stretching. The liver is over here, and sometimes if you feel the liver, if it feels kind of fatty, that's a sign of a fatty liver. And if it feels kind of hard, then the liver is having some problems with maybe overwork. It should feel nice and soft. The spleen is up here, the pancreas is along here, and then we have the stomach fitting in this area, and the small intestine, and then the large intestine, which runs around. Now when you do the stomach, the abdomen, you always want to go in a clockwise direction. But there's a little change in the rules for something that happens in lymph work, but I'll show you that as well, and it will make a lot of sense to you. So with the abdomen, basically what I like to do when I'm working with the soft tissue is come up carefully into the base of the ribs. The ribs, actually, you're going to run into several of them as you run down, but just getting into the attachments there along the rib, and then bring it through to the hip. And again, the rib. And you can tell when there's a lot of stress there, because sometimes it's not very smooth. It's a kind of ripply, kind of bumpy. If there's not any pain with it, it's okay, but it's nice to have it worked. Sometimes that's just lactic acid built up in there. Sometimes it might be a little stress point, but it's nice to try to keep it as smooth as possible, and of course as pain-free as possible. And then coming with both thumbs, you can work. Now I'm not really on the organ, I'm right on the edge of the ribs, and there's a couple floating ribs down about here. So you want to be careful not to put very much pressure on those. And then down into the hip crest. A lot of the massage work, or the work that's done with the soft tissue to get these action going in the abdomen. It's largely focused more on the larger intestine, and to work so that is moving well. When you get into lymph work, you're going to get into fluids and some other things, and if getting into visceral manipulation, then you begin to work each individual organ. So here I like to make sure that the bowel is moving and able to move through this, because it comes up, there's a joint and a joint. So I oftentimes will start down at this end and do a little bit of vibratory type move in order to make sure that things are moving to open. It's the concepts from lymphatic work that the fluid in lymph work needs to have some place to go, so you open the place that it's moving toward. And I feel that in the large intestine, it's important to move make sure that where everything is moving to has a way to move, so it doesn't back up and get stuck or bottled up somewhere else. So this is where that exception to that rule would be, that I am working actually in a counterclockwise direction, but I'm doing it only to open up what's on this, the ascending, descending, and transverse colon. Working around it. This is helpful to do sometimes if you feel like you're having a little bit of stomach pain, gas, or feel a little constipated. Sometimes this helps with getting the peristalsis action going again, because sometimes the large intestine will get a little passive and it won't do strong peristalsis, which will tend to back people up and give them a feeling of fullness and just not feeling quite up to par. Okay. And then here's the small intestines, and now this I'm going to work in a smaller circle, working around. I'm going to do something here where I'm kneading the muscle, but I'm not pushing in deeply. I'm really on the muscles, not into the organs at all. So that's where you're going to want to have the sense of the muscle and where it is and what it feels like, and then pick it up and work it. And ways to bring that, and always bring it back into the circular clockwise motion. There's not a whole lot that you can really do here. Something else that's nice to do for the abdomen is to tuck the hands underneath the area where the waist is and give some traction and pull it up. That feels really nice. That's a little vibration. And you can go down a little deeper onto the hip crest and the hip, the ilium, and bring that up and around, and also up at the ribs. So that helps with that as well. Okay, and then here, if you want, you could also take some of the ribs, and just get in those intercostal muscles here. Just be real careful and find where you're supposed to be in between that rib. Find the line and follow the line. It's always following the anatomy. It's the best way. It's very important, especially if you're in this industry, to not use your brain too much as far as trying to figure things out. You're going to get better results if you just follow that anatomy. Find where it is and learn what that particular sense is, the way it feels, how it's acting, and just follow the anatomy to help it unlock. Because of the subtle anatomy and the twists and torques that happen in so many different ways, it's better to do that, because nobody really knows how a body is going to unwind. And some of the methods out there where it's a forced pushing into a particular spot is not always going to give you the best result, because you're not sure how that particular trauma happened. And it's important to be sure that you let the body unwind where it needs to, because we certainly can't figure it out. And it's really the person on the table that has to do their own work to unlock some of this stuff. Now here I'm below the clavicles. Here's the sternoclavicular junction right here. That's where this whole girdle is attached to the skeleton. And this is just a brushing. There's ribs underneath here, And so I'm basically following the rib pattern. And then to get into a pectoralis muscle here, just have your arm come out just a little, is you can come up underneath here and just work into the pec. I like to just pick it up and then just do a little bit of sweeping. And the same thing over here. Just need to be able to reach it. It's a funny kind of a flat muscle, so you can get both your hands on both sides of it pretty easy. And then I just run it and feel what I'm feeling, and if there's anything that's tense in there, then I'll work it out, but usually that's okay. You can also do a little wringing of it, which is like back and forth, like you're wringing it. This is all more muscle work. This is soft tissue work. Again, just respect the body, respect what you're feeling, and don't force anything. It's really time for us to realize that we should honor the body in more ways than we do. There's a lot of abuse that we've done, all of us, and myself included, to the body, not giving it what it needs. So it's going to be nice to begin to see how we can move into a much more passive and compassionate way of therapies. For most therapies, sometimes a little more aggressive measures are definitely in store and needed. But overall, to maintain, if we're keeping ourselves relatively healthy and we just need to maintain the alignments of the body, something deep and gentle and where we can go into a deep state of relaxation will give the right kind of results without a lot of backlash or trauma to repair from over-aggressive therapies. So I hope this gives you a little bit more of an idea of what you can do and taking care of people, and get an anatomy book if you can find one and take a good look at the muscles and know where you're at, know your landmarks. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And I think there's a little bell up there that you can hit that you'll get a notification every time we post. So if you want to, you can hit that too. But thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.